and welcome to another episode of Sum of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay,
And I'm Jim.
and this week, Jim picked our movie. So, Jim, tell us what you had us watch.
Well, I kind of got in the mood from watching Cat Ballou, so I picked another Western, which, as we get into it, is a classic movie, but it is a remake of a classic movie. I picked The Magnificent Seven, the original Magnificent Seven Western from 1960, with Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, directed by John Sturges, and a great musical score, I will say, by Elmer Bernstein. So, or Bernstein, however you want to pronounce it. But a more serious theme and tone, and again, and I'm sure that you'll talk more about the it's a direct takeoff of the Seven Samurai, which John Sturges readily admitted, but I thought it was very well done, and I think it was well received. I think when it first came out too, but westerns were big. It came out in
Mm-hmm.
1960. So
Mm-hmm.
had you have not seen the movie before this
I
one?
had not, no. I had not
Okay.
seen any version of this.
Okay, you hadn't seen the 2016 version then with
No.
Denzel. Okay, all
Nope.
right. So I watched it. It was okay, but
Mm-hmm.
this, I think, with a lot of things, once you see whatever you think the original is, or that, well, this one was, but it takes a lot to hold up to it. So, but
Mm-hmm.
just an iconic cast, great score, terrific action, and then there's a lot of the characters, the actors and stuff. I think they're early on in their career.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you enjoy the movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was entertaining. I enjoyed like all the different like the seven and all their kind of different personalities and like skills and issues and all of that stuff. I thought that was entertaining for sure and kind of kept me interested.
Yeah, they kind of it wasn't sort of like just a blanket, where well, here's these seven people or whatever. You got to know a little bit about each one, like you said, enough where each one had their own motives for how they got where they were, and a little bit of what made them what they were and stuff, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I like it reminds me of a lot of other sort of like ensemble movies in like they do the sort of like the recruitment, right? You like see everybody's skills play out, right? That's the same kind of thing you see in like Ocean's 11 and that kind of, right? You're like, okay,
Yeah,
we need a bomb guy, and then it's like cut to John Cheadle like
right.
building
And
bombs, right? Like so it reminded me of like that sort of thing, which I think is always entertaining.
yeah,
Um
I know it's a little long, maybe some, but
mhm.
it does move well, or at least it does for me. So maybe sometimes there as scenes in the later on in the movie in the village and stuff might get a little slow, but even then you sort of it pans out a little bit about what's going on and ulterior motives and stuff
Mhm.
like that. The feelings of the villagers and stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think the score is good also. It was Oscar nominated that year, so I guess other people also thought it was good.
Wonder what won though, because I mean, this is the opening theme is kind of iconic. It's like
Yeah.
uh, they they've used it in a lot. I think they've used it in commercials, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know.
Exodus.
Really, I mean, that was
Yeah.
a good movie and everything, but I don't know about the musical. That one for best score, huh?
It did.
Oh well. So
Yep.
go figure.
Yep. But yeah, and like you said, this is a remake based on the 1954 Akira Kurosawa movie, I almost said the Magnificent Seven. Actually, like in the America, they called it the Magnificent Seven,
Magnificent Seven.
but it was called Seven Samurai.
Now,
Um,
have you seen that?
no.
Oh, that's good. Oh, we may have to watch that one then.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's good.
I know that I feel like a lot of people say that like Akira Kurosawa films are kind of foundational to a lot of like inspired a lot.
Mhm. I would, yeah, especially this one, yeah. So in
Hmm.
this, yeah, the Seven Samurais, it's more underplayed than this one. It's not over the top like, but it's
Hmm.
very, oh yeah, especially even with the subtitles, it's very, and you sort of see each character as they develop, just like in this one. So I
Hmm.
think that's where Sturgis got that idea, because each of the samurai have a
Hmm.
different motive, and they all have kind of a different skill.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was one of my favorite parts. I'm
Hmm.
interested to see, especially because you say it's more underplayed. Because sometimes, and I think sometimes it's a of the era, and sometimes it's like the actors. Like the guy that plays Chico is doing a lot.
He was in a lot of he was like a heartthrob kind of guy. Horse Bow Calls at the time. He did a couple of
Hmm.
movies, and there were a lot of stories about people who worked with him didn't like him. They said he was abrasive and he was sort of in your face and stuff. And he is
Hmm.
kind of an odd pick. You know,
Yeah, he's just like very like
he's not
his
he's not
performance is
Hispanic.
well, no, yeah, he's like German.
Yeah, and um,
But
you know,
we'll talk about who's not Hispanic. Eli Wallach and half
wait,
the villagers.
but wait a minute. Eli Wallach also played a Hispanic bandit in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, in the trilogy from
Yeah. Oh, and then the
the
old the old
spaghetti
man,
western.
the
Oh,
old man was
is
Russian,
Russian.
and he's speaking in a Russian accent.
Sorkov. Look, I pick movies where the guys just talk like they talk. So if Sean Connery can speak Russian with a Scottish accent, then the old man who we
At
never.
least he's not painted brown. At least Sean Connery was not painted brown. The accent is one thing. God. Because, like, but yeah, but in terms of just like the acting, that guy who played Chico, he's like, oh my God, we're gonna fight them. Like, he's just flailing around. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you have
Uh,
like Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen are like calm, cool, collected.
so very understated.
Really,
And
all the rest of them, all the rest of the seven.
what if you James Coburn, who is, I think a lot of people maybe they know him and stuff, but I think a lot of people don't. I think he was one of the coolest people, as far
Hmm.
as laid back, and he's smooth and stuff. And
Hmm.
I mean, hell,
Yeah.
he sleeps half the movie.
He does. He does. I didn't even realize, like, towards the end, I was like, wait, did he die? I didn't see him.
He's asleep. He sleeps all the time until it's time to fight.
Yeah.
Then
But then he's ready.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, he's gotten a lot of rest. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and is he one lean guy or what?
He is. He is. For
I mean,
sure.
but
For
anyway, so
sure.
yeah, some of the casting choices they said were a little odd. Yul Brynner, come on,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
Chris.
Yul Brynner. Oh, it did make me laugh that his name is Chris. I understand that there are people in the Old West probably named Christopher because it's like a biblical name, but like Chris just sounds like a guy that you work with, a kid in your class. So like the idea of like a gunslinger being named Chris, and
I
like they just
know
call him Chris, and
you
like
would.
you and I know Chris, and it's just like it's just as funny to me. Like that's not a cowboy name.
No, no.
Chris is not a gunslinger name.
I
Chris
would have
is
changed
a
my name.
middle manager name.
He he should have been the name of the guy that worked at the grocery store that offered Steve McQueen a job as a Cracker Jack clerk. So,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly. Or he should have at least like gone by his last name. He had a last name, right? Chris Adams, like he could have just gone by Adams and it would have
Adams,
sounded
yeah. Hey,
cooler.
Adams. I
But
know.
it's
Well,
just like, hey, Chris.
yeah. What's like, yeah, because Steve McQueen's character, Vin Tanner, he could have been either one, right?
Hmm.
Tanner or Vin.
Yeah,
But
that sounds like much better. But yeah, all the rest of them, like
well,
Chico, Bernardo, Lee, Harry, iffy.
yeah, but Harry was kind of a,
Yeah, but he was like a iffy. And then Brit, like you gotta like that. It's a
yeah, it's
good
got to be
short one
short,
syllable name.
right, and to the point, and sort of like,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And Bernardo's is cool because his name's like Bernardo O'Reilly. So he's like
Mexican
Mexican
Irish.
Irish. So like
Yes.
it there's something there. There's like
Yeah.
some character in the name.
Right.
But yeah, Chris took me out. I was like, why is his name Chris?
And of course, later on, people will hopefully they'll Yul Brynner sort of played off the same iconic character in Westworld,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as the robot gunfighter,
Yeah.
who goes off the rail.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess is where I did the HBO show spin off of that or
Off
remake
the
that?
movie,
Okay.
yeah, that was a movie in the '70s, so we
Okay.
might visit that one too. Westworld, I
Yeah.
mean, the movie.
I wrote in my notes of like what people have been in, I wrote Westworld, not that one. Like
Yeah, not the
not the one
TV,
that I have seen on HBO.
right? The movie, yeah,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Jim Brolin. But
Uh
anyway, so
yeah. Well, this movie is directed, as Jim mentioned, by John Sturges, who did a lot of other kind of big things. He did The Great Escape, which a bunch of people from this movie are also in. That we'll talk about. Bad Day at Black Rock, Gunfight at the OK Corral. So he's doing some big westerns in action.
he didn't do them little artsy movies, so
Nah.
the subtlety was not one of his trademarks.
Yeah, yeah. The screenplay, again, which is an adaptation of Seven Samurai, the screenplay was written by William Roberts, who also wrote things like The Mating Game, The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, Posse, The Bride at Remagen, and he created the ABC sitcom The Donna Reed Show.
That
Two,
doesn't really sort of sit well with being like a big then that. Oh, hey, you've done comedies and stuff, so we're going to have you write a western.
this
Okay.
was like, I think, his second thing. So he
Oh,
did this
okay.
and then went the other
Okay.
way.
Boy, that Magnificent Seven was hilarious. Can you write a comedy show for
Well,
us?
also on that note, there are two other writers that contributed but were uncredited.
Aw.
So Walter Bernstein, he was blacklisted, so that's probably why he was uncredited. But he also wrote The Front, Yanks, and Little Miss Marker in the 70s and 80s. The
Oh,
other
okay.
writer that was uncredited is Walter Newman, who wrote Cat Ballou, also wrote Ace in the Hole,
Yay.
Blood Brothers. So, he knew what he was doing in the
Yeah.
genre.
I didn't know. I did not know that there was that connection between Cat Ballou and this movie. That
Yes.
the one of
It
the.
looks like he actually, so he's uncredited because he renounced his credit because he had creative disagreements with John Sturges about
Oh.
changes Sturges wanted to make. So
Okay.
that is why he is not credited. He didn't want to be. He's like, take my name off that.
Right. How dare you put I will not have my name associated with this product.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Had some principles. Well, that's okay. Yeah, if he had,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Although
stand by your.
he
Wonder if
probably,
he still got paid.
I was going to say he probably lost out on some residuals at least,
Yeah, probably.
but maybe he still got paid up front. So
Hopefully got something out of
I hope so. I hope so. But yeah. So my like second Western.
it.
I've
I
watched
know
like
what.
Wild Wild West. I don't know if that counts as a Western.
There are people who would argue with you about that. So I watched it at the movie theater only because I was a fan of the TV show.
Yeah.
I came away a little disappointed. So
It's not a good movie.
it's not. So and there's so many good actors in it though, but it's
Right.
wasted. They're
Kenneth Branagh,
wasted.
what are you doing? Mostly what I remember about that movie is Will Smith's song Wild Wild West, the sunglasses I got at Burger King, and one of the women. Did you get them? I got the brown ones. I got
I
the Kevin Kline ones.
Yes, I have. I still have them.
Oh my God. That's
I keep all
amazing.
my little treasures from movies. I have the Phantom ring from the Phantom movie with Billy Zane.
Oh, nice. The last thing I remember from Wild Wild West is the women that were with like Dr. Lovelace, the like
The
European,
German,
yeah.
yeah.
And the way that they say Utah instead of Utah.
I
My friends and I still
remember
say that to each other sometimes. One
Utah.
of
Do
my
you
friends,
really?
Utah.
Utah.
Yeah.
I've forgotten about that. I, I remember I came away so disappointed because I really liked the TV show as a kid, and
Hmm.
I was hoping for big things, and it it did disappoint. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
anyway,
sure. But yeah, so
yeah,
anyways, all that to say, not a lot of Westerns experience over here. So,
nah, okay, we'll
yeah.
get you there. So
Yeah, yeah. Shall we talk about the movie then?
let's get into the remake of the Seven Samurai, or
Yes. This is like the third. So you have Seven Samurai in 54, this in 1960, and then the remake of Magnificent Seven with Denzel Washington in 19 or 2016.
2016. Plus, this movie spawned two sequels,
Yes, yes. And some of the
which
actors came, like Yul Brynner was in
he was in this first sequel,
the
but
first
then he,
sequel.
yeah, then it, yeah, and for our audience, I mean, it's up to you all, but yeah, I've seen them. No, they're not worth really watching. So
Yeah.
just saying, they're not nearly as good as this one.
Mhm. So, well, the movie opens, as Jim mentioned, with a great like opening theme. I invite you to Google it because it's great over the opening credits.
Yeah,
And then we're in a little Mexican village, and a bunch of guys are rolling up on horses. And we learn that this is a sort of group of bandits led by this guy, Calvera. Calvera is played by Eli Wallach. Calvera is presumably in this movie like a Mexican man. Eli Wallach is like a white, like
he's
Polish Jewish
Jew. Yeah, he's
Jewish
Jewish.
man
Yeah,
from New York. I know Eli Wallach most from his later in life work because he's in The Holiday with
with Kate
Kate
Winslet.
Winslet.
I
Yeah,
forgot
he's
about
like the
that.
old man that's like
Mm-hmm.
the composer, like the film composer that she spends a lot of time with.
I forgot
Um,
about that.
so a very different role. Although he did a lot of work like this at the time. As you mentioned, he was in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He was also in The Godfather Part 3, How the West Was Won, Baby Doll. But to me, he's the old man from The Holiday.
I no, I get you. Yeah, so yeah, I think this is the first thing I remember him from. I saw Baby Doll afterwards. I've seen that, but then then it came out with for a fistful of dollars for a few dollars more, and the good, the bad, the ugly with
Mm.
Clint Eastwood. So
So Calvera is there, just sort of like his presence is like menacing because he arrives and he's just like chatting kind of, but it's like the chatting that a villain does before they like rob you. He's like, so many places they don't have like have religion anymore, and like he's talking about how places have like lost their values as he's like there to rob people.
he talks about how poor how rich the town was, but the church only had brass candlesticks. And then one of
Hmm.
his guys go, which we took anyway. He goes,
Yeah.
well, yeah, we took them, but they weren't gold or silver. It was like, you know,
Yeah.
and didn't have much money in the poor box.
Yeah.
So
Like things have really gone downhill, huh?
yeah, really, yeah. Towns just, he said, oh, your village is so rich in so many ways. You have a nice church. It's old, but it's clean and all this. And people go to church, and yeah, he talks about how tough the world is, and then here he is stealing from people. So
Right, right. And he's saying like, he's a robber to make money. He's trying to make money.
yeah,
And
he's got all these responsibilities.
yeah.
It's not easy being Calvera.
Yeah, he's got a price on his head.
Yeah, he's got to feed all of his guys. He's got to buy
Mhm.
'em bullets. Bullets ain't
It's
cheap.
it's a lot. It's a lot. So they collect what they came to collect, and they're making their way to leave, and then a guy kind of comes after them with a machete. He's one guy has like had enough, and Calvera dispatches him very easily. Just boom boom, like he's dead. And the other villagers, Calvera and them leave. The other villagers are trying to decide what to do. Some people are like, we should leave. Some people are like, we should hide all of our food. Some people are like, they don't take that much. let's just do nothing.
Yeah, yeah, they never take everything. You know,
Yeah.
they leave us something. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, so yeah,
Some
evidently
I
this has been going on for a while
Right.
too.
And then I think someone says like, "Oh, we can just ask him to leave more food for us." Like, "Oh yes,
It's
this is a reasonable person." You could just be like, "Hey, man."
exactly. Hey, while you're robbing us, can you just maybe not take as much as you used to? So
Right. But then some guys are like, "No, we need to do something." But what?
yeah,
So then they go see kind of the village elder, this old man
the
who
Russian.
is who is played by our Russian Vladimir Sokolov, who is just
That
speaking in a
that
Russian accent.
that's about as Russian as you can get now. Come on.
That is a right.
He could have been in the hunt for Red October.
Hmm.
He should have been in the hunt for Red October.
He should have been.
So
So he's out there speaking in his Russian accent with his fake
looking
tan.
trying to look as Hispanic as he possibly can. So
Yeah. I would think maybe he's trying a little bit on the accent, but it's just
it's
Russian.
just
Like he
yeah,
can't.
nah, It's like Boris Badenov on Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Moose and squirrel.
Yeah,
But he tells them they should fight. And they're like, "But we can't fight. We're farmers."
yeah, we don't
And
know
he's
nothing
like,
about fighting.
"Well, buy some guns." And they're like, "With what?" And he gives them like a nice like pocket watch. He's
It
like,
looks like
"Well,
a silver watch, and then I guess, and then collect, whatever. Yeah.
yeah." He's like, "Take this, whatever else you can collect, and then sell it to get
Oh,
guns."
and go to the border.
Yes.
The border is where guns are plentiful. You can buy
Mhm.
guns at the border. I guess this is the border between Mexico and, I guess, Texas. I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
So
Go to Texas. Guns are plentiful. Sounds about right. Um,
and that's still good advice to this day.
Indeed.
So that never grows old.
Yeah. So they go to this town to sort of look around, figure it out. And there's a scene unfolding here. And it seems like this sort of random guy found like a dead person and it was kind enough to like pay for this man to get buried. But the like undertaker guy is like, "Well, we can't bury him in the cemetery here because he's an Indian and the people here don't want that to happen." And he's like, "But I'm like paying you."
Right.
And the
Yeah.
guy's like, "Well, yeah, but no." He's
And
like,
this
"I'm
is
not even."
Boot Hill. This isn't like some fancy cemetery. This is
Right.
like where all the drunks and whoever,
Yes. But as the Undertaker points out, all of them are white. White drunks and criminals. And he won't even like, they're like, "Well, can you just like put him in the hearse and like roll him up there?" And he's like, "I'm not going to do that
yeah.
because people here will not take kindly to that." And then Yul Brynner is hanging around and with some dudes with guns. And he's like, "I'll do it. I'll drive
Yeah.
the hearse up the hill." Yul Brynner plays Chris Adams. He's the leader of what eventually becomes the titular Magnificent Seven. Yul Brynner, for me, like The King and I is what I know him from.
And if y'all don't know what that is, then gee.
Yeah, get it together. But he was in the Ten Commandments, as Jim referenced in our Prince of Egypt episode, and he was in a movie Anastasia, not the animated one, and the movie Westworld, which was then adapted into the HBO television show. Um, and he is joined by another guy who rides with him with his gun out. So Chris is kind of driving, and this other gentleman, Vin Tanner, played by Steve McQueen, is riding with him with his shotgun, and
Mhm.
actually does shoot someone because someone is shooting at them because they're so racist that they would rather kill a person than let a dead Native American person be buried near dead white people.
I'm starting to question my choices of movies between Mississippi Burning and now this movie. I'm starting to wonder about, do I have, I don't, gosh, I hope people don't think I don't pick these movies because of racist overtones. I just wanted to let you all know that. So
Well, to be fair, they then shot the guy who was shooting at them, so
true,
it could
yeah.
be that you're
Well,
like
I'm
the
on the,
opposite.
I would, yeah, I'm on the side of, like, I think old Sam should have been buried in Boot Hill. Probably should have gotten a decent burial somewhere else, but you know,
Yes,
but hey, because I'm on old Sam's side. So,
exactly. Steve McQueen, a very famous actor of the time, he was in The Great Escape, The Thomas Crown Affair, Papillon, Towering Inferno,
Bullet,
Bullet. Yes. Did I
which we
have
will
that?
review later on.
Oh,
That's on my
yes.
list.
Lee, the guy who plays Lee, was also in Bullet.
Hmm.
Yes. Lots of these people cross paths again in their
Uh,
careers.
there was like yeah, there was like a group of actors, who were like these
Hmm.
were guys all, doing big office or big box office movies,
Hmm.
TV shows.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. And Steve McQueen, who had just the year before been in on a TV series, Wanted Dead or Alive, which was a
Mm,
TV Western. So that's where he got his first break.
nice.
And
Nice.
in the movie The Blob.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Uh, they have, I like that Chris and Vin are having a little chat too as they go up. Like, where are you from? Chris is from Dodge, as in get the hell out of Dodge. And Vin is from Tombstone, as in the movie Tombstone,
Yes.
starring the late
Movie.
great Val Kilmer. But yeah, so they're rolling up the hill to bury this dude. People are shooting at them. They shoot back. And then afterwards, the villagers are like, oh, well, we got to talk to them
the
about guns.
these guys know about guns. Yeah,
They
because
know some things about guns.
yeah. So plus they're pretty badass, right? So
Yeah, yeah. So they go up to Chris for help. And he's basically like, why don't you like ask the authorities to help you? And they're like, they have not helped. Like we've tried. They basically tried like everything that they could.
yeah.
Calvera won't stop. So they want to buy guns and they want his help. And he's like, well, why don't you hire gunmen? Because they're actually cheaper than buying guns.
Plus they don't know anything about guns.
Yeah,
They don't know how to use guns. So yeah.
right. So they get his help to hire gunmen. They offer the watch and they're willing to fight. They just need someone to like show them how.
Right.
So, and he tells them like you'll have to be prepared for killing and more killing. And they're like, I mean, we're farmers, but like, okay.
Yeah, they seem to be like, okay, we're in it for the long haul, but he tries to warn them about, where this is going to lead.
Yeah. So they start recruiting. And one guy comes in who we later learn is Chico. And Chris has him playing some like hand slapping games to like see his reaction time, which reminded me of Capaloo.
Yeah, so the same gimmick.
Yes. Yes. It's like Kid Shalene,
Kid Shalane, yeah.
his
Clap your
little
clap your
yeah.
hands and then pull the gun out before you can get your hands closed.
Mm. And Chris sort of like embarrasses him and he's like, "Oh, he's all angry." They're like he's too proud. So
Yeah.
he goes storming out. And then Chris's friend Harry comes in and he's like, "Oh, is there a reward?" And Chris is like, "I mean, not really." And he basically Harry thinks that Chris is like hiding it, but Chris is like, "No. Like we're
Yeah.
not we're this is like bottom
They're
of the barrel. It's not happening." And
yeah.
Harry's like, "Uh-huh, wink wink."
Right, nod, nod.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there's
okay,
no
Chris.
reward.
Yeah, there's nothing underneath like,
Yes.
gold or diamonds or something or
Yeah.
and he tries to tell Harry, no, no, no. There's oh, I get it. That's okay. He goes, I'm
Mm.
in. I
Yeah.
I'm with you, buddy.
Yeah. So Harry is played by the actor Brad Dexter, who was an actor and producer. He acted in several different films, including things like Shampoo. He produced films like Lady Sings the Blues.
Oh,
He was also married to the singer Peggy Lee,
did not know that.
at least for a
Oh,
time.
oh, okay.
So, yeah. Uh, They then decide to go recruit Vin, who is at a casino. I don't know if you would call it a casino or gambling parlor.
That's
Um,
yeah.
again, we get the sense that he's a skilled gunslinger, but he is perhaps a gambling addict and he's broke.
Well, he is after one roll of the dice.
Yeah. And he did seem to have some hesitancy with the low pay at first, but then I think he's kind of like, well,
I'm flat busted, so
I don't have much anyways, so I'll take it. I'm
yep,
in. We get the sense too. I like you also get some vibes of their personalities, right? Like Chris is sort of very stoic, strong, silent type. Harry is sort of like bigger personality, a little more grandiose, right? He's in it for the money,
right.
and he's not shy about that. Vin is pretty quiet too, but he loves to pop out with like a little saying or a story or whatever. That's kind of like how he communicates. Then they go recruit Bernardo O'Reilly, who is half Mexican and half Irish.
Come on, that's a great name.
It is, it reminds me of Beto O'Rourke.
Oh, I'd never thought about that. Yeah, yeah.
I was like, because you got a Mexican name and an Irish name. Um, but Bernardo is a guy who's, he also has a lot of fighting experience, but he's fallen on really hard times. He's like, when they find him, he's like busting rocks,
Chopping wood. He's
chopping wood. Okay.
chopping firewood for breakfast, not even for money, but for a meal.
Hmm.
And Bernardo is played by.
Charles Bronson, who is also in The Great Escape, in lots of like westerns and stuff like that. The Dirty Dozen, Once Upon a Time in the West. It's a name I don't know if I've seen anything he's in, but like it's a name I'm familiar with.
He did a series of movies where he played like the gunman, not a gunman, but a vigilante who's
Death
killed.
Wish.
Death Wish. Yeah, he was the Death Wish guy. Good
Uh,
actor, very good actor. And
yeah.
like he's and he'd been in yeah, he was in big movies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like you said, The Dirty Dozen, The Great Escape, Once Upon a Time in the West. He was good in that.
Anyways, so they recruit him, and he doesn't seem to have like he'll take kind of anything, it seems like. So any reward is
Yeah.
good for him. And then we meet the next member of the team, Britt, who he's good with a gun, but he's a knife expert also. And it seems like he's just kind of he spends a lot of time, as Jim said, just sort of reclined with his hat over his face, sleeping, and then the rest of the time antagonizing people so that he can fight them.
Well, yeah, and then although in his defense, the guy kind of goaded him into it a little bit,
Yeah,
by being calling him a liar and saying that he was full of shit, basically. So,
yeah, yeah.
although he
So,
doesn't say much in the movie either. I mean,
no,
does he have like 10 words of dialogue in the entire movie?
probably. But they recruit him, and Chris says it's because he's the best. And one of the villagers is like, but who does he compete with to be the best? And Chris is like, he competes with himself.
Well, that's right. And he's played by.
James Coburn, also, surprise, in The Great Escape. He was in Hard Times, Hell is for Heroes, Our Man Flint, and I think there's a sequel to that too that he was in.
Yeah.
Uh,
He was in Payback with Mel Gibson.
mm,
I always liked James Coburn. I always thought he was like one of the coolest people. Like everybody talked about Steve McQueen being the king of cool, but I always thought James Coburn was right there, if not maybe even a little
mhm.
bit more so. But that was just my opinion.
I think other people thought that too. His Wikipedia page says it.
Oh, does it?
So,
I did not know
yes,
that. I swear I
unless
didn't.
you
So
edited his Wikipedia page.
no, 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 no. I haven't branched out into that. So there is a scene, it's in Our Man Flint where he is the character, which is a spoof on James Bond, is what it is
Mhm.
on spy movies, where he puts his head on a chair and his feet on a chair and like planks, in between. Well, they did that because he could actually do that. He would meditate like that. But so
That's so weird.
they saw him do this and they thought, well, we're gonna put this in the movie. Like this is a because most people I guess can't do that. You have to be pretty fit.
Hmm.
But they said, oh, this will be a thing that the character does, in order to meditate. So it shows him doing that, and
Mm.
I was very impressed with that because
Yeah.
I sure as hell couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
not even when I was 20 years old. So
Yeah. So the gang so far is gathering. Chico stumbles back in. He's really mad that Chris like embarrassed him and made him look foolish,
I
and he
think he's
kind of wants to,
drunk too, isn't he?
yeah, and he
Seems
wants
a
to
little.
fight him, and Chris is just sitting there like, okay, man, like just he is unmoved.
Yes, Chris
But then
stoic.
yes, then he's told that there is someone waiting for him, and it is the one of the last members of our crew, Lee, who's looking very dapper and fancy.
Mm.
He's another gunslinger who's done a lot of jobs for a lot of people, has a price on his head. But he wants in. He's heard there's a job to be doing with some level of reward involved, and he wants in. Lee is played by Robert Vaughn, who British TV work, I know.
He did,
Um,
yeah. I believe yeah. I think he was
he was on a show called
American.
Hustle on the BBC.
He was,
Um,
but he started out as
the Man from
Napoleon
Uncle.
Solo. Yeah,
Yes.
the
So
man
if
from
you've
Uncle.
seen the movie The Man from Uncle, that's the role that Henry Cavill plays, the
Right.
main character. So
So Robert
uh,
Vaughn was the original.
Robert Vaughn was the original. He was also in Bullet. He was in Superman 3. I also read, this was interesting, that he got a PhD in communications and he did his thesis about the House Un-American Activities Committee
Really,
and like the censorship and blacklisting
I
and
did not
stuff.
know that. So
Yeah. So,
I always liked him as an actor. I always thought he would because I liked the Man from Uncle TV show. That was
mhm.
big when I was a kid growing up. So
Yeah. Yeah. And if you see him in this movie, it makes sense that he did that because he is very like dapper.
yeah, more. Yeah, he dresses better than the other guys. He's a little more put
Hmm.
together. So
Yeah.
has a
He's
vest, where the other guys are
yes,
kind
the
of
vest with like the little like tie that they tie in a
little
bow.
string tie, little
Hmm.
yeah. And
So
and speaking of costumes, I'm sorry. So and Chris Yulbrenner, he's the iconic gunfighter. He's all in black.
yes.
Sort of like Kid Schlien was. He's
Hmm. Hmm.
black holster, black pants, black everything.
Black
So
hat.
black hat. So
Yes. And Yul Brynner was bald, so I think like after he was the king and the king and I, he kind of kept shaving his head
kept shaving
after
his
that.
head. Okay,
Yeah.
so it was a good look. It
It
looks good
it
on
sort
him.
of became his look, I
Yeah.
guess. Maybe the people were like, "Oh, you have like a nice shaped head. You can pull it off."
Yeah.
And so he kept it up. So it is weird to me though because I like obviously his name's Yul Brynner. He's like of Russian descent.
Right.
But then like the thing that I had seen him in, he's playing like the king of Siam. So when I look at him, I'm like, what are you?
Well, like in this movie, he's supposed to be. There's nothing about
Cajun,
is yeah, right. So yeah, he sounds about as Cajun as I do. So I'm just
right?
just yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
what's like Cary Grant always played Americans. Cary Grant was he was born in England, so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was
I
the most
mean,
well spoken American I ever saw in the
yeah.
movies.
I think that is a little easier. That's not like a different ethnicity.
Oh yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, it's like yeah, but really, I know they couldn't have
But
anyway.
also at the time that Cary Grant was, everybody talked in that weird accent,
Well, that's true.
that weird
The
mid-Atlantic accent
mid
that like,
Atlantic
are you
like
British? Where are
mm,
you from?
like Kate Hepburn.
Yes, yes. And like
Yeah.
Betty Davis to some extent,
Yeah. I forgot about yeah.
like these
So
people are not British, but they're talking in this sort of like
I
that
mean, like
accent. They're all heading back to the village. You know,
the
the
music. I love the
villagers.
music. Dun dun dun
Yes.
dun 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 dun.
And
Dun.
they are being trailed by little Mr. Chico. He still
Forced.
wants to be involved. And eventually they're kind of like, "You know what? You're persistent. Join the club." So now they are the Magnificent Seven. They arrive to the village and it's empty.
You know,
They're like, "Where is everybody?"
it's like
The only person there is the old man, the old Russian man, Vladimir.
oh, and the three guys that take them back to the village,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but that's it. Yeah, it's like
Right. So it's
where is
like,
everybody?
hmm. And then Chico sounds the alarm, which makes everybody come out. So good thinking, Chico. You add something for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
And Chico kind of although he's like he's kind of insulting to them. He's like, "What's
Yeah.
wrong with you people? We're here to help you, you idiots.
Yeah, and
Be
he goes,
grateful."
you're all hiding like scared little puppies or whatever. Yeah, he's like he reads them the riot act.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
And at this point, this is when Chris says officially, like, now we're seven.
yeah, because
He's officially in.
right, because he mouths off to the villagers.
Right.
So
Yeah. Although I guess, he did summon them all with the alarm. He did some quick thinking. So like, okay, we'll give him that.
yeah, so
It's also a day of celebration. It's the anniversary of the village's founding, so they have like a whole like party, like kind of street festival thing, which is actually very cool. They have like cool like outfits and dances and like costumes and stuff.
I wrote down. Did you see the guy with the deer head on his hat on his head?
Yeah.
Do you think that was a real deer head?
I don't know.
It
I
looked
don't
pretty
know.
real to me. I was writing. I thought, wait a minute, is that a real deer head?
Oh
So
gosh.
anyway, even in a small village like this, and there's not a whole lot of people, but they take the time to celebrate the founding of the village. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's like Calvera was saying, this village is rich with culture.
yeah, so yeah, these people are good. They're good in the heart, and they're kind, and they love each other or treat each other with respect, and
Hmm. They work
yeah,
very hard and
yeah.
we
So
see
so
this,
we
we
can
see
steal their
examples.
food.
Yes. We see examples of this later too. But meanwhile, while all this is happening, a boy from the village has seen three of Calvera's men that were kind of sent to spy. So Chris sends Lee and Britt to go get them, bring
Hmm.
one back alive so we can see what they're doing. But of course, Chico is sneaking along behind them, and he doesn't want them to see him, so he's hiding from them. But then, as they're waiting to like find Calvera's men, because they're like the horses are there, they're like, "Where are the men?" They come up behind Chico, and Chico is startled and shoots two of them. And
Right.
and then the third one gets on his horse and is riding away. So then now Lee and Britt are like, well, now we got to shoot him. So then they shoot him. And all the villagers are hearing gunshots and they're like, what's going
Are,
on?
are we in danger? And then, um, oh, I too like that. If we talked about bread, so they get there and the guys aren't around. So what's Britt do? He lays down by a tree
Mm-hmm.
and then and proceeds to put his hat,
Hat over the face. Time to go to
and
sleep.
then he picks a flower and like is looking at the flower. It's like this guy is like so laid back. He's not sitting there with his gun out or anything else. He thought, I'm just going to take a rest then.
Yeah. He's like, my favorite thing is chilling,
Yeah, and I'm good at it.
and I am doing it.
And business is booming.
Yes. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so they come back and tell him what happened, tell Chris what happened, and Chris is like, well, you know, the spies mean that Calvera's gonna come soon.
But
And
not soon enough. We got some time.
we have some time. We have a
Yeah.
little training montage. So they're teaching the villagers how to shoot. They're helping them build like walls and fortifications and like traps and stuff so that they're ready for when Calvera comes again. So I mean, maybe he was delayed because he was like, man, my spies are taking so long.
I wonder what held up Eaton and Mac and John. So uh,
Exactly.
you know,
Pete and Mac and John, the normal Mexican bandit names.
well, like you said, I don't think all the bandits were Mexican either.
They
So
definitely weren't. Also, I want to just say the villagers, I don't know, some of them were like, they have Mexican names, like the actors, and they have like accents. And then some of them are like, hello, welcome to our village. I'm like, who
they
is
went to
this guy?
they went to the Lee Strasberg School of Acting, I guess. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. So so you enunciate very carefully. So
Yes. I will say Eli Wallach did study with Lee Strasberg and was one of the founding members of the Actors Studio.
yes, he was. So yes,
In any case, they're working on building things, and we get to see a little bit of like the different guys and their relationships with the villagers. So Harry is convinced there are precious metals in the area. So he's like, "Hey guys, tell me about the gold mine that's here." And they're like, "Oh, there was never a gold mine here." And he's like, "Oh, so like a silver mine?" And they're like, "Also no."
no, no, there's never been. He go, like back in the old days. No, there's
They're like,
never
"No,
been.
no."
No.
Then he's like, "Stop talking so much. Get back to work." Chico is in the woods and he encounters a bull in the woods.
Oh, and then yeah, thinks he's a
He's a matador.
I guess because that's what they teach you in Russia or wherever he's from.
He's from Germany. Oh,
Germany,
that's we didn't
sorry,
talk about him. Chico is played by, you can tell he's German by this name, Horst Buchholz.
Horst Bockhaus.
I think that he was known as like the James Dean of Germany, is what I saw
Yeah,
on
he was
Wikipedia.
supposed to be like some big heartthrob in the in like the
Yeah,
teen movies or
I will
whatever.
say he was like probably my least favorite in this movie.
According to some of his co-stars, he was their least favorite.
Well, glad I'm in good company. But he was in other things like 1, 2, 3, Life is Beautiful. He was in a
And
lot of movies.
we'll do 1, 2, 3 too, because that's one of my favorite movies with James Cagney and unfortunately Horst Bockhaus. So
Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll like him better in this other movie.
no, you won't.
Good to know. Good to know. But anyways, while he's messing with the bull, then someone goes running and he finds a woman who we later learn her name's Petra. And he like basically snatches her and rides back into town and is like, "Look what I found."
Well, they alluded to that. Steve McQueen had said he goes, "I've been in villages where there was like not very pretty girls. I've been in villages where there were homely girls, but I've never been in a village where there were no girls. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's like no girls here except really
Heretofore there
young
are,
ones,
yeah, there are like men and then there are children.
children."
And there are no like women, no
Right?
adult women.
No.
But basically it turns out the women have been hiding because they were afraid that this sort of like marauding band of gunslingers was gonna attack them,
Right.
rape and pillage.
Do evil things. So
Yes.
because they are despicable. So
And I think the way Chris approaches it, it seems like he's actually concerned like for their safety because like we can't protect you from Calvera if you're,
right. If we don't know where you're at.
yeah. So he sends Chico to get the rest of them, Chico and Petra,
Mm-hmm.
and like Vin, Vin basically like snatches her up again and sort of tosses her on the horse.
I know. It's like really, he just sort of like threw her up on the back behind Chico there.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
like
really.
geez.
I know.
And then so the women are back in the village and serving the men food.
Now, like, so I wonder. So who was cooking before then? I mean, I guess the guys were making food for the. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
they was it. I don't know how much time has gone by, but I'm sitting here thinking, because they at least a day or two, and
yeah.
But anyway, so yeah,
So the women are giving them food and it's like really nice, right? They're getting like tamales and enchiladas and like all of this really good food. And Bernardo points out, because Bernardo is an empathetic individual. He's like, "Have you noticed what they're eating? They're eating like plain tortillas so that we can have all this."
right, and a few beans.
Yeah. And then cut to they start sharing their food with the kids, especially.
Yeah, which
Uh,
is nice.
it is
So
nice, although without not without ulterior motives, because Vin asked one of the little boys if he has a grateful older sister at home.
he says, no. He goes, thank you. The
uh,
nada.
they do more shooting lessons, more fortifications. They are getting ready. They're like, I don't know, Kevin in Home Alone,
Yeah,
ready for the wet bandits.
exactly. Getting ready to guard the castle. So
Yes. And they're trying to also, like, the seven are trying to round up all the villagers and make sure that they can keep them safe. The old man, the old Russian man, lives on the outskirts of the village, and they go to see him. They're like, okay, you want to come into the village so we can protect you? And he's like, no, I'm good.
yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right.
I like being a hero. Like, what are they gonna do to me? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm good. And they're like, okay, like, it's your funeral. It's kind of their vibe. Like, all right.
Where I like where they said, "Well, you can stay with so and so in the village," and they said, "No, his conversation would bore me to death." you know, before you got to wonder what the old man did before, because he said he never shared their love for farming or fertilizer or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and he said he lost interest in women when he after he turned 83, and then Vin looks at him like, "How the hell? Oh, how old are you?" It's like.
Right.
But yeah, you got to wonder. Okay, so what did he do, and then why is he hanging around there if he finds them so dull and uninteresting? The rest of the village. I don't know.
Right, right. I don't
And how
know.
does he live? How does who provides for him?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, what's his deal?
I don't know. So
Anyways,
I never thought
well,
of that when I first saw this movie. I'll just let you know
yeah.
that.
Well, the day comes and Calvera and his men show up in the village and they are confronted by the seven. Calvera kind of tries to recruit them at first. He's like, "Oh, get with the winning team.
Yeah, I
Don't
can
you guys
offer
want to
you
come do
much.
some stealing and some robbing and some shooting?" And they're like, "No." And Chris is like, "Drop your guns." And they don't.
Yeah, and ride on. That was the big thing.
Hmm.
Ride on. Just
Yeah.
and
And then the
Calvera
shooting
doesn't take too kindly to that.
No. And then the shooting starts. And the seven, along with the villagers, because the villagers are shoot, they have the guns from the three guys they killed before. They took their guns because they're
Right.
resourceful. We are resourceful here. They kill a bunch of Calvera's guys. They end up killing like I think like 11.
Yeah, that's what
There's a later
because
scene when they're
mm,
counting.
counting how many were
Um,
killed, and he only had 40, so now he's down to like 29. So
yeah. So
so the odds are getting better.
they took out 25% of his
Exactly. Yeah.
staff
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Sort of like the layoffs that are going on.
They were rift. There was a reduction in force. Yeah.
Little extreme, but hey,
Yes. I can only hope that it is
desperate
not the
times come
same.
with desperate measures. So
God. Well, Calvera and the gang leave because they're taking some losses, and the villagers are pumped. They kind of are like, oh, like we
oh,
won.
yeah, it's like, oh man, hey, we did great. We kicked his ass and booted him out, and it's like,
Yeah. They don't think he's gonna be back. And it's like, also like Chico dancing during this scene.
around his hat,
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
the Mexican hat dance. It's like so. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, oh, when I'm sorry in the confrontation, I just want to point out one of the iconic lines from this movie is like when Calvera tells him, he says, I need food and I need, for my men and stuff. And he goes, no, he goes, you just need to move on. He goes, you're not solving my problem. He goes, we're not in the business of solving your problem. And then Vin tells him, he goes, we deal in lead, friend. So that's
Mm.
that's that's that that's a often quoted line from the movie. So
Okay. Okay.
so just saying. So, but anyway,
But yeah, so, they hear some shooting in the distance, like they go investigate. We see again some more of the villagers that Bernardo has made friends with these three little boys. which is very cute because then they learn his name is Bernardo and they're like, oh, one of us.
Uh-huh. And they get picked, or they have a very special task.
Hmm.
Remember, if he gets killed,
They will put flowers on his grave.
and that would make them very happy.
Yes.
He says, well, he goes, I'm sorry if I don't if I spoil your plans.
Right. Yeah, like to be clear, for people who haven't seen this, he doesn't ask them to do it. They are like, if you die, we'll put flowers on your grave.
Yeah,
They
oh,
offer
they
it.
they picked him. They said, "Oh, we selected you. You're going to be the." And he goes, "You picked me for what?" And it's, so yeah,
Bernardo, we're going to
yeah,
put flowers on your
on your
grave.
grave, and we will make sure that we keep up your grave, all the time. So
Yeah.
he did say that
So,
was a comfort to him.
yes. It's funny. Charles Bronson is like the most like serious looking person.
Oh my God, I don't
And
think
so
I've ever
like
seen him smile.
him being the one with like the little kids is like really funny.
Yeah,
He's like, I think Bernardo and Vin are my favorite of the seven because I think Vin is like, I like his little sayings. And I
yeah,
think Bernardo just it seems like a good person.
hmm,
Like he does like care. And like again, we see more of him with the boys later that like gets more of that, but
yeah.
he has a little bit of he has some emotional depth to him.
He does, in a sense of decency about him, where
Hmm.
he's not like the callous, cold-hearted killer. I think that, and I think for all of them, really, you get the idea that maybe none of them really are.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
ice cold, non-emotional, just killing machine or whatever. It's
Right,
just
right.
that,
Yeah.
and maybe it's because times are changing. They're,
Hmm.
but yeah. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would, and after that, probably Brit,
Hmm.
only
Hmm.
because he's just so laid back. It's like,
Yeah. He's
his
very
pulse
chill and then
doesn't get
he's like
above 40,
bang bang bang. He's like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
it's like,
and here comes the knife."
yeah, okay. Who was I shoot? And then
Oh.
I'll go back to sleep.
Yeah. Like he shot the guy that was riding away on the horse. Like he just like slowly
Mm,
aimed and was like bang,
bang.
got him.
So yeah, at the top of the crest, right before he got away, so he couldn't
Yeah.
tell Calvera.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Anyways, like I said, they're going to kind of investigate what's up with Calvera, and Vin is with one of the villagers, sort of in a like spying, to see if they see them. And the poor villager, he's like, "You ever get like sweaty and nervous before a fight?" And Vin's like, "Yeah, I do."
every time,
Yeah,
every time. Well,
and
you do, don't you? Don't you get sweaty and nervous before a fight?
of course, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
like you
yeah,
do.
yeah,
But the villager's like really scared, and he does admit like part of him's like we should just let's just give him our food. But then he's like, he ultimately says, like, this is worth dying for.
yeah,
I like that. There was like because that was like a real
yeah.
sentiment.
It was that, that something he believed in enough to die for.
Yeah.
And
But also, he was still scared as hell.
sure, yeah. So
Meanwhile, Chico, I guess, is going to sort of join these scouts, and Petra, the woman that he found in the woods, she sneaks up behind him, so he's not a very good spy. But uh,
exactly.
she's like, "Did this hurt?" And she touches his face where she slapped him before.
I know.
And
I thought she was trying. I thought she was like. I thought he'd gotten shot or something.
right, I was like, "What is she talking about?"
I
But
know.
I
And then
think
she
it's where she,
touches his cheek, which is
yeah,
is unmarked. It wasn't like a,
right,
a bullet grazed him or something. It's like,
exactly.
really? Yeah. Oh, did it
But yeah,
hurt where you didn't have to shave today? So
yeah. But she's like, "Don't go do these foolish things." Like she apparently she's just head over heels for him now, I guess, and
what's the word you use? Thirsty.
she's
She's
thirsty.
thirsty.
Yes.
Okay,
She
so
feels bad for hitting him. She's like, "My father doesn't want me to be here." And he's like, "Then go." And she's like,
y-
"No, I don't want to."
yeah, yeah. She says, "Oh, my father will beat me because I'm shameless, but I don't care." It's like,
Yes.
really? Okay, and then you can sort of see Chico, like, he's
Hmm.
falling for her.
Yes. Yes. So basically, they all kind of are like, okay, they don't see signs of Calvera. So they're like, okay, we'll just sort of retreat into the village and we'll just sort of hold tight for him to come back because we do think he's going to come back. And they're all the people in the seven are kind of talking about being like gunslingers and Chico I think has this sort of like glamorized idea of what it is. He's like, "Oh
Right,
yeah, we're like riding around and we're shooting people and fighting." But there's like good and bad parts. Like Vin is talking about like I don't have a wife, I don't have a family, I don't have like a stable like home.
right.
But on the other hand, Chris is like, "But I also don't have like any responsibilities. I don't have anything tying me down, you know?"
Hmm.
Um
Lee tells it, I don't have any enemies.
yeah.
And Chris goes, no enemies? He goes, well, none that are alive.
Mhm.
Like, dude, aren't you the
We
badass?
we're about to learn about his enemies, and safe to
Yeah.
say the call is coming from inside the house on that one.
Ooh, oh, I like that. I like that
Hmm.
term. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And they're like, Chris, and you tell me if this is correct, but it sounded like he was joking to Chico. He's like, why don't you go find Calveras for us?
Yeah,
It sounded like a joke, and Chico's like, okay.
he was like, yeah, he goes, if you go ask him what he's going to do, and then when you come back, I'll write a song about you. You know, like because Chico
Yes.
was saying, oh, they're going to write a song about us and stuff, and he
Mm-hmm.
goes,
Mm-hmm.
you go up there and you do that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and of
So
course
he,
Chico has the sombrero
yes.
because
Yes.
Doofus got a hole shot through his hat. You know,
So he goes and sort of dresses himself up as one of Calvera's men, and this is where he runs into some of them like counting, trying to be like, okay, well we lost that guy and that guy and that guy, so that's 11. They're like just naming them and counting them, and Calvera comes and says that they're gonna go back for revenge
don't you
and
think that
food.
if they only had 40 guys, that they would have known, like, hey, I don't think this is one of us. I don't
Right,
think, I'm just
that's
saying.
a tight knit group. I would be like,
Yeah.
I haven't seen you at the meetings.
Yeah. Do you have your membership card?
Yeah, you have
Uh,
not been at the meeting. Can you, are you on the list?
yeah. Do you know this? Do you know the secret handshake?
Hmm.
Anyway, so
Meanwhile, back in the village, it's bedtime, and Lee, as I mentioned, uh, so his enemies live in his own brain because my man has PTSD and is having horrible nightmares. I will say this little bit of acting was a little much for me too. When he's like in the hallway throwing himself against the walls, going like, oh, 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 oh. Like,
I get you.
okay.
Also, was he drinking water or was that like alcohol, liquor out of that jug?
I don't
I
know.
couldn't tell if he was, was he trying to get drunk, to sort of put himself to sleep or I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
But
don't,
then the villagers come and they're like, "Hey, man, like it's okay. Like you're fine. You're here in the village. Like it's all good." And he's like he sort of tries to like act all cool. He's like, whatever. Like I'm
yeah, I'm
what are you
fine.
talking about?
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm fine."
Yeah, he's not. Well, and
Clearly.
then they talk about being afraid. Everybody's afraid. And then they say, remember they say only the dead don't have any fear. And it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like a light bulb goes off for him. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh.
Oh, okay. Well.
Because he really didn't engage in the first go around with the guys. He was like sort of,
Mm-hmm.
hunkered behind a wall. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, we have like Bernardo's hanging out with the boys. Harry's teaching the men some like tricks with the
the
cups
cups.
while he is trying to get them to tell him about treasure. And they're like, there is no treasure.
Well, the one guy talks about, then he goes, oh, you mean the Aztec treasure? From, yeah, 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 that's it. He goes, there is none. And poor Harry's like, man, there's got to be something going on here. Come on.
Right,
Come
right.
on,
They're like,
fellas.
but
This
thank you for
can't be
telling,
all there is. Yeah.
thank you for teaching us these tricks.
I know.
They're
Yeah.
just jazzed about the tricks.
Oh, look, I got it. I figured it out. So,
Yeah. Then Chico comes back to report and he says Calvera's coming back because he and his men are starving and they are broke.
yeah, they
They're
haven't
coming
eaten
here
in
for
three
some
days.
food
So,
and some money. And Chris is like, all right, so we're about to fight again. But some of the villagers seem to think that kind of their being there makes it worse, basically.
mhm.
they're escalating things. So they want them to leave. But then other villagers don't want them to leave. And then sort of the seven kind of step away to themselves. And some of them, like Harry's like, why are we gonna stay here? Like they don't
Right.
want us here.
They don't want us here. Yeah. So,
And Chris is like, no, we're we're fighting. Like we're
yeah,
not
we're going to
like
stick this out.
yeah. Meanwhile, Chico's talking to Petra. They're having their little lovey-dovey moments, but he's like, I don't want a farmer's life. I would never live here. Ew.
Hmm.
I'm gonna follow Chris and Vin and go be a gunslinger.
That's right. Because I'm cool like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So
sorry.
this moment, they're like, they have a plan. They're gonna go to the camp,
And
Calvera's camp, and let their horses loose to like sabotage them so they can't come back.
right.
But when they get there, the camp is empty.
No Calvera.
Yeah,
No, no banditos.
nope. So they go back to the village, and Calvera and his men are there, and they kind of ambush. So it's sort of like a reverse Uno
Yeah.
reverse. Uh, they ambush the seven, and it turns out some of the villagers, probably the ones who wanted the seven to leave, kind of like covertly
Let them into the
let
village.
Calvera
Yeah.
in and them in.
Yeah. Because
And
the ones that were defiant, they're being locked up, or
yeah.
they were being held.
Hmm. But Calvera doesn't really like want more smoke with the seven. He's letting them go.
Yeah.
Because one, he has concerns about like their people north of the border.
Americanos.
Yeah, he doesn't
Yeah.
want any issues with the Americanos. And he also is kind of like, man, it's already bad enough that you're trying to help these people and they betrayed you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
You,
gonna let you take this. I'm gonna let you go. Cause
yeah.
that sucks enough. That's
Right.
punishment enough for you. So he also lets them like take their guns and leave, which is
I
kind of
know it's
crazy.
like, yeah, well, he says, well, we'll give them to you when you cross the border or whatever,
Yeah,
and then, but it's like, dude,
right.
for such an evil-hearted bandit, it's like one of the, that's kind of silly, but hey,
Yeah. Yeah. And the seven are really like bummed.
bummed.
Yeah. Like Bernard, the little boys don't want Bernardo to leave because they're like, you're like really cool and our fathers are all cowards. And he like lets them have it. He's like, how
Yeah.
dare you? Do not ever say anything like that.
He
You're,
whoops up on one of them,
yeah.
pulls him over and spanks him.
Yeah. He's like, do not ever talk about your father like that. Do you see them? They every day they work so hard to give you food and like a place to live. They have so much courage. They do this every single day to take care of their families and da 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 da. So he's like, how dare you? Like
Right.
never,
He says,
never
yeah,
say anything like that.
he said, I don't have that kind of courage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they are sort of escorted out, given their guns back, and they're kind of just out in the middle of wherever. And this is where Chico is like, I hate those
Oh, yeah.
people, stupid
Yeah.
farmers, and blah, 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 blah. And Chris is like, um, aren't you a farmer? Like, didn't you grow up on a
Just
farm?
like that. Yeah. Just like that.
And Chico's like, yeah. And then people like you came around, and that's why I have to end up with guns trying to shoot people because of people like you,
That's
Chris.
right. You baddie, you bad guy, you.
Yeah. So they're all kind of getting amped up. Everybody, except for Harry, wants to go back to the village and fight. Harry's like, these people do not care about us. And, you know,
Yeah. You're all
he's starting to
crazy.
seriously doubt that there's any treasure for him.
Yeah. Yeah. He think, and even if there is, maybe it's not worth it at this point,
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, bye, Harry. Happy
Yeah.
trails to you. We're going.
Yeah, no hard feelings, so it's
Yep.
all good. And
Yep.
they tell Lee to Lee, if you want to move on, and Lee says, "No, I'm going back."
Yep, yep. So the Magnificent Six roll back into the village, and a gunfight ensues.
Open a can of whoop ass.
Yeah, we pretty much get right to it.
Yeah,
They're like,
there's
we're
no.
going back, and boom, bang, bang, bang.
That's right, baby. We're going in with guns a blazing.
Yeah, and things start to escalate. There's a moment when Chris is kind of pinned down
Oh yeah, in a
uh in a
doorway.
doorway by a bunch of shooters, and who should come riding in on a horse to save the day but Harry.
I thought you were going to say
Unfortunately,
John Wick.
imagine. Unfortunately, Harry does get shot, and it is a
Yeah,
fatal wound. But Chris grabs him and drags him into the building he was in, and it is really sad. And Harry's like, asking him, and Chris, as he's dying, is like, "Oh yeah, this is for gold. We're here. We're gonna get gold."
yeah,
Just so Harry doesn't feel like he like died for
for
nothing.
nothing. Yeah, and half a million at least, Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sacks and sacks of it. And
Yes.
you can see Harry like lights up. And then he
Yes. He's dying with a smile,
smile. Yeah.
as Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga would say. They have a song called Die with a Smile.
Oh, okay.
It's a good song.
I'm sure.
And, the villagers are fighting back too, and not even with guns. They got shovels, they
They
got
pick up
little
bar stools.
pickaxes. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like some guy comes out with a big axe in his
with an axe
back.
stuck in his back. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're waving machete, like whatever they
It,
got their hands on.
That's right, baby. So it's on. It's
Yeah.
on like
Kevin
Donkey
from Home
Kong.
Alone actually was an apt comparison because they're
Yeah,
being resourceful.
they're using the tools at hand. It's okay. I don't have a gun. I will figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. And as Jim was saying, they're all kind of being held in different buildings, and Lee goes to save some of them, and he gets shot and dies. Again, it is a little dramatic,
That
I
one's a
find.
that one's a bit
He's
much.
kind of
Yeah.
like
Ugh,
throws himself against the
the
wall and just
wall.
like, oh,
He
you
throws
know.
himself against a lot of walls in this.
Yeah,
So just
he does. That's
yeah,
the Robert
yeah.
Vaughn School of Acting.
There you
Throw
go.
yourself against walls.
Wall
Um,
hugging the Robert Vaughn
yes.
way. So
Yes, but it does seem like that was kind of he's killed a lot of people.
yeah,
It makes me think of the line in Avengers when Black Widow's talking about I have a lot of red in my ledger.
yeah.
It seems like that's his vibe, and so
I
maybe he can get a little bit of redemption because he's now saving people instead of just killing people.
I never thought about that. Yeah, because before he goes, he looks in the window, and we don't see what he sees in the window in the building. But when he goes in there's the villagers who I think the guys that first came to recruit them
Hmm.
being held at gunpoint, and man, he just takes out all three of the bandits or whatever.
Yeah,
Just
I
boom,
like when
boom,
they do
boom.
the shooting like that when they pull the pin
Yeah,
on the top
uh-huh.
instead of like
The
just the
Yeah,
when they have a
pulling the
revolver
trigger.
and they go like
Yep,
with
fanning the gun they call it. Yeah,
okay,
so
yeah, the little
yeah,
top thing
yeah, they fan the
instead of just
hammer.
pulling the trigger. Yeah,
Yeah,
it looks
so
cooler.
and yeah, because first he's got his gun in his hand, then he puts it back in his holster, like, dude, I'm gonna do this the right way. I'm gonna
Hmm.
go in, and take them all.
Yeah.
And he is good. So
Hmm.
but yeah, he
He
gets
is
shot.
good, but yeah, he gets killed, and Chris shoots Calvera, and then he's like, "Why did you all come back?"
Yeah, for this place, for this little village.
Yeah, and then he
Uh,
dies
yeah, then
before
yeah,
he gets an
he
answer. So
croaks. But and then
then my man Bernardo.
Bernardo, well,
Bernardo is protecting the boys.
who
And
obviously don't know enough to stay out of the damn line of
right,
gunfire. It's like,
guys,
fellas,
it's very easy to avoid.
yeah, you stay
It's
inside.
quite loud. Like
Yeah,
it's not like, "Oh my God, I just stumbled upon this."
right. Yeah,
Um, but he gets shot protecting the boys, and as he's dying, he tells them to look at their fathers who are fighting, like look how brave they are.
right,
And it is just like so nice. Like you're losing like your last moments to be like, "Look, kids, your dads
right.
are great."
Yeah,
Then the fight is over.
Well, Brick gets killed.
Oh, Britt also gets killed. That part I missed. I feel like it happened kind of quickly.
It did
Um,
because and because they're the bandits are what's left of them are leaving, and then he gets shot. Well, and then Vin gets shot in the leg, but he
mm,
doesn't get killed because remember he's
yeah.
tying up his leg with a
Yes,
bandana or
that's
something.
true. That's true. But
Because
yeah, Britt
that's
gets
how
shot,
tough guys do that. You
of
get shot in
course.
the leg, you don't go digging the bullet out. You just tie it up with a
Right. Just a little tourniquet, little
yeah,
tourniquet.
exactly, yeah. So
So yeah, at the in the end, there's only three of the seven are left.
right.
We got Chico, Vin, and Chris. And the old man says they're welcome to stay in the village, but they're like, no, we're gonna go.
Well, there'll be
Uh,
a lot more food now because there's
yeah,
less mouths to feed.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and they don't have people coming to steal their food on a
right,
regular
but I mean,
basis.
there some villagers got
Sure
got
did, sure did.
yep.
Uh,
So sorry, fellas. So yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, but he sort of talks to them about how their presence was very important, how they kind of drove away Calvera, the way that like a strong wind sh
gets rid of
knocks away
pestilence
talks
or
away the
whatever.
locusts or whatever
Yeah,
on the crops.
but then the wind blows on,
Yes.
and then yeah, because he said in the end the villagers are the only winners because
Hmm.
you guys will just drift away, and
Yeah,
but
exactly.
the village is here to stay and it'll prosper
Hmm. Yeah.
because that's an old Russian saying.
Yes. And then they're like, vaya con Dios.
Yeah, right off, into the sunset or whatever.
Hmm. Except for Chico, who does decide ultimately to stay in the village for Petra, because he is a little farmer at heart, too.
Exactly.
The
And
village actually was like a decent place. Um,
I think it's sweet too at the end when he comes back and I don't know what they're doing. They're cleaning corn or something like that. And then
yeah.
she sees him and then she doesn't look at him, but she just smiles, like knowing
Hmm. And kind of goes back to her.
yeah, that he
Yeah.
comes back to her. So I
Yeah.
like that part. So
It was cute. It was cute. It was a nice understated moment,
it
which we didn't
was.
get a
Yeah,
lot of with Chico.
exactly. Yes. Thank God it wasn't Chico that had to do the understated
He
reaction.
would
It
have like
was
thrown himself on the ground or something.
I know, or grabbed her up and just I came back just for you,
Yeah.
so, but
And then so Chris and Vin ride off, just the two of them, and Chris says, like the old man said, only the farmers won. We lost. We always lose.
and
So it's interesting because it's like kind of a happy ending, but also kind of a sad one.
yeah, it's yeah, kind of bittersweet, about
Yeah.
and it their way of life, is passing by. So
Yeah. And the last thing we see, there's four graves set up for the four of the seven that died, and the boys are
our
putting flowers on Bernardo's grave,
Bernardo's grave.
like they said
So
they would.
I'm sure that made him feel a lot better. wherever
Totally.
wherever he is. So
Yes. Yes. So that is the Magnificent Seven.
I liked it. I like westerns, and I think this one was a big epic. It's mentioned a lot of times
Hmm.
in popular culture. There's an episode of Cheers where they're getting together for a big night because this movie it's either on TV or whatever. They're all going to get together to watch it. So
Hmm.
the cast of the gang of Cheers. Um, I did read this is the second most movie ever put on TV besides Wizard of Oz.
That's interesting.
It's the most shown movie, second most shown movie on TV, second to Wizard of Oz.
Hmm.
I never thought about that, but it's like I know that's where I first saw it was on TV. I've never seen it on the big screen. I'm sure it's great on the big screen with
Yeah.
the vistas and stuff. If it ever comes to the big screen, I'll be sure to try to watch it. So
Yeah. They're showing uh uh Seven Samurai on the big screen here locally in one of the revival series
how
soon.
soon?
I have to look, but it's in like the next couple
Oh,
months.
really?
Hmm.
Oh, I'm in. So that would be
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, if you haven't seen that, and then I would love to see that on the big screen because that's
Hmm.
another one of, and the storyline is the same. It's, a
Hmm.
village and the samurai are, they're Ronin. They're without a leader, so
Yeah.
they have
Yeah.
to make their they have to make money, have to
Hmm.
earn a living. So
This
sword
is
for hire.
also a similar plot line to the Disney movie A Bug's Life,
Really, I've
where
never seen A Bug's Life.
yeah, so in A Bug's Life, there's a slight twist, because the people are not real fighters that they recruit. So the ants, it's about ants, and there's a main ant named Flick who is an inventor, but people, ants like to live a regimented life, so
Uh
they're
huh.
they're not really open to his inventions. But the grasshoppers come and like steal their, all the little seeds they've harvested,
Oh,
and the
okay.
grasshoppers are big and scary, so they're like Calvera. And so Flick goes out to find like warriors to defend them, and he finds a bug circus.
A bug circus.
Yeah, so
Uh
there's
huh.
like there's a ladybug and a caterpillar and like roly polies and like a bunch of bugs that have like a circus. So he brings them back, and they're basically gonna pretend because they're no one comes to their circus. So
Oh,
they're like, oh, a performance, great. And he's like, you have to pretend to be like fighters. It is a similar thing, except for the twist that they're like not actually
oh, okay. They're not actually
fighters. But they
fighters.
do end up, spoiler alert for people who haven't seen A Bug's Life, which came out in like 1998. They end up saving between them and like Flick's inventions.
Oh, okay.
They end
I have
up
not. I've
saving the
not
day. But
seen
it is
that.
like it follows this like
The
basic
the
plot
same
line.
premise.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, well, like you said, there's always there's in a theme of movies like this, there's always the recruitment process, where you get to
Mm-hmm.
know or see what each character brings to the table, so to speak, or what kind of skills or whatever they have,
Yeah.
or that they're coming to protect a town or village or whatever, that's that sort of thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
But
like I
yeah, I
said,
just thought it was interesting. I read that recently that like A Bug's Life is basically like Seven Samurai,
Seven
Magnificent Seven,
Samurai.
and I was like,
Hmm,
huh, it
hmm.
kind of is.
I'll have to
Because I
watch
think there
that
are
then.
even seven.
Seven of the bugs or seven insects in the circus.
I think so. Because but it's really good. It's a good movie, and it does like follow this same kind of
Theme or the
story, like
okay.
mainly. Like I said, besides the fact that they're like not actually warriors, they're circus bugs. But yeah, so it's a fun. I think it's an overall like good, interesting story. I liked the different characters, except for Chico,
You're
but
not alone. So yeah,
good.
yeah.
And of course, I always, whenever we watch an old movie, I have to bring up the accents and the brown face.
Well,
But
I agree because even it was 1960. I know they could have found. They did have some
they're in
actors.
California.
I know,
You can't find anybody Mexican in California?
and they found some. They couldn't find the rest
Right.
of them.
Right.
Like yeah. So I know.
Or someone who is at least like naturally like that color. Like,
Well, it's like Charles Bronson was Polish. It wasn't like,
right.
so he was supposed to be a Mexican. Irish. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, at least he was supposed to be half Irish. They're really pale, so
That's true, but I mean, he wasn't even close to being that. He's
I know.
Eastern European, so it's like
Yeah.
really. So
There
yeah,
are a lot
between
of Eastern Europeans
Yulbringer,
represented
Horst,
in
and
this
then
movie.
Charles Bronson. So
Yeah.
yeah, you sit there
Like
and you
Eli
think
Wallach, I mean, he's American, but his parents were Polish
Polish Jews. Oh,
immigrants. So
yes, yeah. So yeah, so they're about
the
as
old man,
Vlad. What was he? Sokolov.
Vladimir Sokolov.
Sokolov.
Vladimir, I guess is how they say it. Vladimir Sokolov.
He'd have been better playing Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
So just saying. But
Yeah.
yeah, but aside from that, because it was done,
Yes.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
look at West Side Story.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Um,
the original one.
yes,
Not
yes. Again, it's like they found one Puerto Rican for that movie, and then they were like, okay, done.
well, thank God they rewarded her for it. So,
Yes.
just saying.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think that like overall, like the story and most of the performances themselves like were enjoyable and entertaining. And I do think I agree with you. This would be cool to see on a big screen and like, with the surround sound of a movie theater, like
Yeah.
with the score and everything.
I enjoyed it as a kid because it was a Western. It was full of, action and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But as an adult, I've come to appreciate, some of the more subtle things, like you said, the character development and
Hmm.
the interplay between the characters and so on. And then the nuances, the
Hmm.
little things, the interactions and stuff. So I think the movie, overall, it really does hold up very well,
Yeah.
for both entertainment purposes and then also for people who I know there were some critics of the movie, and there probably still are, when it first came out. But for the most part, I think it was well received.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and I think is it in the one of the 100 or whatever AFI's list? I think
I think it was for the best, one of the best scores.
was it.
But
Um,
it is in the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress.
oh, okay, yeah, but don't they? I mean, I'm not saying that's not an honor, but is there a is there a
I
lot
mean,
of
they pick movies every year to go in there,
right? Okay, so,
but it was added in 2013 as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
oh, okay. Well, took them a while, so just 63 years. So,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, it's
oh
considered
yeah, I
like
see
one of the
that. Yeah.
greatest.
Oh yeah, but in preservation. So, oh yeah, you're right. American Film Institute's list of the top 25 American film scores. So, which
Hmm.
I would agree with. I really did like the music,
Yeah.
um, especially the opening, the whatever the theme is, because that's iconic.
This is interesting that like when it came out, it didn't sell a lot of tickets in the United States and Canada, but it was kind of a big hit in Europe.
You think maybe because of Horst and
I was gonna say
Knoll?
maybe they're like, oh, look at all
Yeah.
of these Europeans in this movie.
Uh-huh. So,
Um, but yeah, it was at the time the highest grossing Hollywood film ever in the Soviet Union. So I guess they were like, our boy Yule.
yeah, well, and Vladimir Sokolov.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
just say,
But yeah, it sold like way more
huh, that's interesting.
in in Europe than it did in the United States and Canada.
They
So
did film it in Mexico, I saw that. So that was at least
I
that was
do feel
authentic.
like the outfits that the people were wearing, that the
The
Mexican people were wearing, did look like
the
authentic.
the
And
well,
like when they had the celebration at the beginning, like that did look like the kind of things you see in like Mexican celebration. So like there did seem to be like some authenticity of like Mexican culture. Not that I'm an authority on Mexican culture, but just like
no,
what
but
I've
you're right. It
seen.
it it did. Yeah. Yeah, especially the festival thing. It showed
Hmm.
because it looked yeah, authentic. It wasn't like somebody had built the props and stuff. You know what I mean? It was like they did maybe had found, some place where they actually did a festival and then they
Yeah.
filmed it. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
I knew the music was used in on TV. It was the theme from Marlboro cigarettes.
Aha. Aha.
So, which, by the way, yes, when I smoked, that was my brand, Marlboro. So
So
now
they got you.
they got
They
me.
did
They
some
got me as a
subliminal
they got me at a
messaging.
young age. So I'm just saying. So,
They were like, "Oh, we're gonna make you associate this with like
uh-huh.
Marlboro cigarettes, a movie
Yeah.
you love,
Uh,
together."
it also says the Celtic Football Club in Glasgow, Scotland, used this music whenever Henrik Larsson, whoever that was, scored a goal. So,
Hmm.
so anyway, but yeah, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad that it didn't come off cross as too politically incorrect.
No, I think,
In this day and age, but I know, but sometimes movies can, they don't age well,
yeah. But I
sometimes, and
think
then
storyline wise, it
yeah,
that holds up.
I will say if we do the review of the Seven Samurai, and if we go to that movie, everybody in that movie is authentic.
Is Japanese.
I don't know if they're actually samurai, but I know they're Japanese. So
Aha. Good to know. Good to
I'm
know.
just saying. So yeah.
Good to
But
know.
anyway,
Well,
well, thank you for watching and for again indulging my love for westerns and
of course,
uh,
I'm being open to a new genre.
well, thank you.
I'm learning the ways of the Western.
And there'll be more in the future. So just like I get to see a lot of movies that I heard of, with you because
You get to see
that
a lot of movies about like teenage girls,
it,
and I'm not in a weird way. And I get to see a lot of Westerns that I haven't
so
seen. So
but
there we
and
go.
we had talked about this just as a reminder to our listeners. We've been doing this for a little over a year. On my timeline popped up on Facebook just the other day. Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, our review
Mm,
had posted, came up. Oh, by the way, Jim, here's a memory from a year ago. So I've enjoyed the experience very much so for the last year. So
me too, me too. And we hope that you have enjoyed it as well. Uh,
exactly.
we hope that you're enjoying it as well, and we hope that you will subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you can get our new episodes delivered right to you when they come out on Mondays. You can also leave a rating, review, comment. Hopefully, it's nice, or we will be hiring a group of gunslingers, to be clear.
And we're going to get Chico to lead the group.
Exactly. And he's Chico's loco. So we'll see.
C.
uh, Follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. You can see all the movies that we've talked about over more than a year at this point. It's quite a variety. You can also see little previews of what's to come and whatever else we decide to share there. And with that, bye bye.
Adios.
Vaya con Dios.